Welcome, everybody, to the Monthly Movie Dispatch. I'm Nick Moffitt, and I'm here with Brandon Bowlby.
Hey, guys.
Derek Diel.
Hello.
And Shaun Bowlby.
That's me.
You guys may have noticed that we've changed the name. We're gone with the name Sharing Podcast with Friends. We are now officially the Monthly Movie Dispatch, where we're going to be every month talking about what movies came out that month, which ones we liked, which ones we saw, which ones maybe we didn't like, but we're kind of changing the format of the podcast to go from once a quarter to once a month, and we're going to be just talking about movies and what we liked and what we didn't like. So this episode is our big kind of season finale episode where we're going to be wrapping up 2017. So you may ask, why are you doing 2017 now? It's the middle of February. The reason why we do our movie calendar between February to February is because of the Academy Awards, and also because a lot of the best movies don't come out until January and February. Brandon, do you want to explain that further at all?
Yeah, I mean, at the very end of December, a ton of the indie and foreign films get released. And so even just to see a lot of the top Oscar films, you kind of have to bleed into the new year to make it realistic. On top of that, there's a ton of early festival foreign films that don't even get their proper release until January and February. So it's pretty unrealistic, and it's always kind of annoyed me when top 10 lists come out at the end of the year, unless you have a chance to actually go to all these indie festivals throughout. So I like the way we do it. Yeah, I can actually see everything I intend to see.
Yeah, I've always had the opinion of I don't want to make my end of the year list until I'm pretty sure that I've seen all the ones that are available to me. I will say that there are movies that you have more accessibility to see because you're in New York than me, who was in Seattle. There still are movies that have not come out over here yet.
Yeah, you got to find that balance between when you're just going flat out into 2018, and I think 2 months in is kind of what we've all agreed on is a good buffer time.
Yeah, so the Academy Awards is this Sunday, so we kind of see that as the end point of, hey, the movie year is starting over after the Academy Awards. So this is going to be our top 10 episode. We're going to be doing one at a time, saying what each of our movies are. Number 10, number 10, number 10, number 10, going around in a circle. The thing is, we're using the punt rule. We've taken this rule from the Top 10 podcast. You can find that on the Schmoes Know Network. It stars Matt Nost and John Roca. And their whole thing is you punt it if it's coming later. So if I say a number 10 movie and Brandon or Derek or Shaun has it later on in their list, they say punt. We don't talk about the movie until it's the furthest along. So if my number 10 is someone else's number 1, we're not going to talk about that until we get to the number 1. So first things first, I want to talk about general impressions of the year. Brandon, how many movies did you see?
So honestly, since I've been digging kind of deep into films these last 4 and 5 years, this has been the most standout year. I feel like there has been so much to go see, and it's been so hard to keep up, especially these last handful of months. It's been really fun seeing this onslaught of incredible films that I have access to. I beat my record, which was held last year at 120 films, with 121 films this year for 2017. So I just barely slid by beating my previous year's record.
With more to come? Or you feel like you got it with 121?
Oh, this is it. It just happened to land on 121. Okay. I'm calling it. I'm moving on to 2018. I've already started 2018 a little bit. But, yeah, I'm pretty happy about the number, for sure.
Cool. Derek, what about you? How was your movie year?
Overall, it was really good. I started off really good. I was seeing a lot of movies, but the second half of the year, I kind of fell off. Didn't have a chance to catch a lot of the movies I wanted to see, but it seems to be similar to what Brandon said. This year has a crazy amount of just good movies. My backlog of this year is over 30 movies deep already. There's so many even just Oscar nominations that I haven't even had a chance to go watch. And it's just a big year for a lot of my favorite directors came out with movies this year. And it seems like they're all getting the recognition they deserve. And so overall, I've been really just really happy about everything that's happened this year, movie-wise.
Cool. Shaun, what about you?
Yeah, it was actually a really good year for me. I didn't have anywhere near 121 movies. I had 41 movies so far, but there's a few more to come. I definitely didn't see any movies that I really didn't like this year, so I was able to avoid a bunch of the stinkers. But yeah, it was a good year.
Well, cool. Yeah, it was a great year for movies for me. I feel like even with the blockbusters, I was pretty happy with all of them. Like, I'm a big comic book movie fan. All the comic book movies that came out were all really exciting. But then all the indies were also really great. My goal for the year with movies was to hit 150. So I was pushing myself all year to see as many movies as I can. And I hit my goal. I got 150 last night.
Whoa.
I'm pretty happy about that.
Wow.
I will say I'm not going to do that next year. I am not even going to try to get to 150, let alone 100. I'm just going to kind of be more natural about it next year and just see what I want to see. I have other movie-related goals for next year. Most of them have to do with movies that have come out in years past. I have a list of 100 movies that I made that I'm just trying to watch in the calendar year. So, yeah, but it was a great year. And I'm just excited to talk to you guys about it, and I'm curious about what you have on your list. So let's get into it and do our top 10s. Okay, so we're going to start with Brandon. What was your number 10 movie?
Wow. Okay, here we go. So my number 10 is a little movie called Dunkirk, directed by Christopher Nolan.
Punt.
Punt it.
All right. Wait, 3 punts? How many punts do we have?
No,
Three
just
punts.
one punt. I was just repeating it. I'm sorry. 2 punts.
All right, 2 punts.
Okay.
All right. We'll talk about that later.
Okay, we'll talk about it later. So, Derek, what is your number 10?
So my number 10 movie was actually It.
It.
Yeah. This was probably my most recommended movie this year too. Whenever people ask me what did I really like this year, I like pointing to It. Just it kind of I don't know, it was one of my favorite movie experiences this year. It's definitely one of the most exciting crowds to go see the movie with. And there was something that just felt good about showing up to the movie theater and not being able to buy tickets because the movie was sold out. I haven't had that happen in a really long time. And so that was really cool. But then, besides that, the movie itself I thought was just really, really great. It kind of blended the horror genre with the coming-of-age story. Really well done. Based off the trailers, they were really scary and leading into it. But it's so hard to pull off this movie, and actually make it really good. And I think they just nailed it. It was just so much fun, and all the kid actors were so great. And it was a really refreshing remake. We don't get to see something of that quality that often, I feel like. So, yeah, so it's my number 10.
I will say, I actually saw this really recently, Derek, and I was pretty mad I didn't see it in theaters because I loved it. I thought it was so well made.
Yeah.
And it looked incredible. This director is someone to look out for. I think he's only done one movie in the past, Mama. And
Yeah.
I looked at the budget and expected it to be over 100 million just because the movie looked so expensive. And I saw that it was only a $35 million film. And that was pretty jaw-dropping. They did an incredible job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was one of the larger blockbusters this year, too.
I was actually about to say, it's the only horror film I can remember in recent years that I actually really liked that had a big budget and, kind of big studio horror film. But I guess it wasn't as big as I thought it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fairly modest budget, great kid acting, made a buttload of money. The clown really struck a nerve with people. Yeah, I was very happy with it as well. So that movie was It. You can find that on streaming or on DVD. It's available now. So my number 10 was A Ghost Story.
Ooh.
No puns?
No.
Cool. Nope.
So, A Ghost Story is a really wonderful small film about a ghost. It is not a horror film, but it's just a movie where tragedy happens and someone just is a ghost. And I have to say it's one of the quietest movies I've seen in a long time. It's slow, but it's short, so it kind of goes by pretty quick. But I just rewatched this for a second time, and because I wanted to see how much I liked it. Because the first time I saw it in the theater, and I thought it was really powerful, but I didn't really enjoy the experience because of how quiet it was, and it wasn't because I wasn't really sure what to expect with it. So I rewatched it, and the pacing was actually a lot better than I thought, and it's really just a meditation on time and loneliness and what you leave behind, and it's a really special movie. I don't really want to give too much away, but it is like kind of a time travel movie, and it has a lot of big ideas about the universe and stuff. It's a challenging movie to watch, but that's part of why I put it in my top 10, is because I think it pushes the limits of what film is. Like, it kind of makes you think, and it makes you really focus on it. So, A Ghost Story, I highly recommend it. Have you guys seen this movie?
Yeah, I'm really happy you put this on your list, Nick, because this was what was battling for my number 10. It's sitting on my number 11 spot.
Really?
Even over some movies in my top 10, like, there's just so much like iconic imagery and style in A Ghost Story that'll probably stick with me for many more years than some of these other ones. And yeah, I'm kind of sad I couldn't include it because it is pretty masterful.
That was partly why I had to include it, was because after I watched it, like I said, I wasn't sure how much I liked it, but I just kept thinking about it. Like, it was one of those movies that it really stuck with me. And I seriously, no joke, think about this movie like once a week. Like, I just something will pop up and an image will be in my head from it, or an idea from it, or whatever. Like, I think about this movie all the time because it's such a special, interesting film.
It's definitely a movie where they decided to do one thing and one thing only. Show that one thing, which is kind of the passing of time in this movie. And I like that kind of idea of movies. And I've never seen anyone take out a pie like Rooney Mara in that movie.
Oh my gosh, that was such an emotional scene.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was A Ghost Story. It's available on Amazon Prime, and you can get it on DVD and Blu-ray. So, Shaun, what is your number 10?
My number 10 is Mother!
Punt. For sure, punt. That is called a punt.
You ruined Sean's title moment.
Should I have screamed that? Punt!
You'll have to one-up him next
Maybe.
time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now we're back to Brandon. Brandon, what was your number 9?
My number 9 is 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Punt.
Alrighty.
Brandon doesn't get to talk this podcast.
Nope.
No. Okay, so Derek, what is your number 9?
My number 9 was a little movie called The Big Sick.
Ooh.
It was, again, it was like just a crazy theatrical experience for me. Really emotional, a lot of people crying, a lot of people laughing really hard. But overall, I just thought it was a really wonderful movie. And I'm a really big fan of Emily Gordon and Kumail Nanjiani. So I'm really excited they got the Academy Award nomination. And I'm really curious, like, if this is the start of like a career for them in writing. I know it's a pretty personal story, but I mean, they told it really well, and it was really funny and really just genuine. And I just really love the movie.
Yeah, I love that movie too. I really wish it could have made my top 10. To me, it was a great year for family dramas. Like, there were 3 or 4 family dramas that really stood out for me that were like any other year, one of them would like any of them could have made my top 10. But this year was so tight, I couldn't find room for The Big Sick. But yeah, it was such a personal, hilarious, well acted movie.
It's definitely the easiest movie for me to recommend of this year. It's funny. It's, it'll make you cry. It'll make you laugh. It has a little bit of everything. It's lighthearted. It's, well paced. It's an easy movie to recommend to people.
Yeah, for sure.
And for like a romantic comedy, it takes some unconventional like twists on the story that are really unique. Mm-hmm. But I think you do bring up an interesting point, Derek. Whether this being kind of their first project together like this, whether they'll be able to move forward and make something else that's just as creative and funny, or if they'll, because this was so personal to them, if this will just be their like garden state and they'll just kind of pull a Zach Braff and disappear. But it'll be interesting to see.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, so that was The Big Sick. It is available for streaming right now on Amazon Prime, or you can get it on DVD or Blu-ray. So, I guess it will come to me then. My number 9 is Get Out.
Punt.
Great. Perfect.
Wow.
Cool. So, Shaun, what is your number 9?
My number 9 is Detroit.
Oh.
Did everyone forget that this movie came out this year?
I haven't
Definitely didn't forget.
I didn't get around to watching it.
I haven't seen it. Oh my gosh!
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen 150 movies and not this one.
Whoa, Nick!
Wow,
that's crazy.
Yeah, this is probably one of the only American movies that's going to come up today that I haven't seen, because I'm sure Brandon will have a few foreign films that I haven't seen. But wow, so Shaun, tell us about Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit was a excellent movie that came out this year, directed by Catherine Bigelow. A huge cast of great actors: John Boyega, Anthony Mackie. A really good take on a very specific event. I think that's what Catherine Bigelow and her kind of co-writer, co-filmmaker Mark Boyle do really well. This is their third project together, The Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30 being the other two. I love how detail-oriented they are in their movies without feeling like the movies are bogged down in detail. It's just, I think it's incredible writing and brilliantly directed. I think it's a movie that's kind of been overlooked a little bit this year for very specific reasons. It's a really good movie. I think doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah, I'm the only one here, I guess, who's seen it. But Catherine Bigelow, just like in her last two films and Hurt Locker, this movie, she's like the master of suspense filmmaking. Like, she puts you right in front of these characters and makes you feel everything that they're feeling. And this movie is no different than her last two, and it's incredible in that way.
That was Detroit. It is actually available on Hulu right now. Otherwise, you can stream it for rental on other places or get it on Blu-ray or DVD. So, Brandon, what is your number 8?
My number 8 film is Raw.
Punt.
Punt.
Yeah.
Okay.
So funny.
Okay, cool. So, Derek, what is your number 8?
For number 8 is Logan. Yeah. I thought that Logan was... I think this year was a year that superhero movies kind of evolved into... or at least the studios are starting to be okay with taking risks in breaking the normal narrative that they have with all these, especially with Marvel movies, and DC took a big risk with Wonder Woman, and we got like Guardians of the Galaxy was willing to take that big blockbuster movie and focus on characters, and like that, I think Logan really did something unique and created this Western type, like, futuristic superhero movie that really focused on these 3 characters. And it was just, on top of that, it's also just really well made. It was James Mangold's second Wolverine movie and Hugh Jackman's last. So it's a really special movie. And I've watched it many times this year. One of my favorite movies of the year.
Have you seen the noir version?
Gosh.
No.
I have, and that actually soured me on Logan a little bit because the noir version doesn't make any sense because it is much more of a Western than noir. There's like hardly any noir qualities about the story, Logan, and also the way it's shot isn't noir-esque in the slightest. So turning it black and white and calling it noir actually kind of bothered me.
That's a great point. It was just
Yeah,
playing
that's
like
weird.
yesterday at the theater nearby me, and so it reminded me of
Yeah,
it.
no,
But that's a great point.
but Derek, I'm totally with you. Like, I mean, we've been like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine was one of the first like big mainstream like superheroes. Like the X-Men, they were right there in the year 2000, right around Spider-Man and stuff, and it was like as like the forefront of like the modern superhero movie, and especially Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in the forefront of it. And to me, this was so much of a Western. It was the hero, the grizzled veteran, his last ride, his last job, the last thing they wanted to do was be a hero anymore, except he had one last mission that he had to go on. And he had to trench across this journey, across the country, protecting this girl who he didn't even really want to protect. It was very compelling. And, I don't know. I personally really liked that it was in the future, and it didn't necessarily like everything in the MCU is specific and related to each other. And this movie was just kind of a standalone possible future of Wolverine, but
Right.
it didn't necessarily fit in with the rest of the timeline. But it didn't really have to because it did just stand on its own.
Yeah, it was definitely the movie where, as I was making, especially the second half of my list, it would be like, Detroit, yeah, what's better, Detroit, Mother? Well, are any of them even better than Logan? But, So it definitely, like, as I was making my list, kept popping up but it didn't actually end up making my list, but yeah, part of me wanted it too.
Well, cool. That was Logan. It's available it's on Blu-ray and DVD right now, or you could rent it online somewhere. So, that was Derek's number 8. So, my number 8 is The Shape of Water.
Nice.
Anyone? No one? I'm the only one with The Shape of Water? No. Wow. Okay. That's honestly kind of surprising to me. So The Shape of Water was the new Guillermo del Toro film, and we've talked about it in other podcasts, but I loved almost everything about this movie. Like, I loved that it was like a throwback to a 1950s horror monster movie, except they flipped the formula, and instead of the monster being the scary force, the monster was a lovely creature, and man was the scary thing. And I thought they did great with the style, the lighting, and the cinematography was amazing. Like, every shot was beautiful. The soundtrack was wonderful, and just like I just got wrapped up in the story. I loved the main character. I loved how she was a misfit and she had a disability, and she kind of accidentally fell in love with this fish creature. I know it's so bizarre, but like only Guillermo del Toro could make this beautiful love story about like a fish person, and I was enchanted by it. So I loved it.
Yeah. I'm sad I couldn't put it on my top 10, but this movie is absolutely immaculate in every aspect, and no wonder it got nominated for 13 Academy Awards because it deserved it.
Yeah, it's definitely at my number 11, and maybe part of me didn't put it on the list because there are some other movies that I wanted to mention over The Shape of Water, but yeah, it's definitely up there as one of my favorite movies of the year.
Oh, cool. Well, that was The Shape of Water. It's still in theaters right now. It'll be available at home probably in the next couple months after the Academy Awards. So, Shaun, what is your number 8?
My number 8 is Phantom Thread.
Punt.
Punt. Dear God. Punt.
Dear God.
How dare you?
Cool.
How dare you put that movie that low?
So, Brandon, let's see if you get a pick here. You're number 7.
I believe I do finally. My number 7 film is called The Breadwinner.
Punt. I'm just kidding. That's true.
Okay.
You haven't seen it. So this is an animated film, up for Best Animated Film at the Golden Globes and the Oscars, which is kind of what made me aware of it. And this movie, was absolutely blew me away. It's produced by Angelina Jolie. It takes place in Afghanistan, being controlled by the Taliban, even though it's actually an English language film. So I don't know if it's a foreign film. I think Canada made it. But anyways, it's a remarkable story. It's not a kid's film. It's animated, but it is drop dead serious. It is very brutal and hard to watch, but it is also really imaginative and creative with its animation and style. I completely got wrapped up in the story and the difficult, complex situations that were happening with and around this girl's family in Afghanistan. And I even loved, the culmination of kind of the side plot and the reveal at the end and what that all meant and how it tied back into the story. To me, this is one of the best animated movies I've ever seen.
Nice.
Wow. I hadn't even heard of the movie until just now. I didn't even know it was nominated for Golden Globe and Academy Award.
Yeah, I saw this movie. Yeah, and I'm with you. I mean,
nice.
I'm not fully with you. I definitely didn't like it as much as you, but I really liked it. It was a very powerful film, and I slightly disagree. Not that it's not for kids, but I feel like kids could watch it. Especially not like young kids, but I feel like almost like fifth grade up, almost like should watch this movie, because it's a very it drops you into another culture and it shows how different another place can be and how flawed other societies can be and how it can really hurt, how people get really hurt. And so I did kind of feel like it was kids could watch it, even though it was very intense at some parts.
Yeah, actually, I kind of get what you're saying. It's not like it's an R-rated film by any means. It doesn't show you exactly everything that's happening and the brutality, but you do feel it and you get a sense of it, which is why I can kind of get away with that. But in the theater, so near the end of the film, half the theater was just bawling due to the content and how sad it was. But there was a family and a couple kids up in the corner of the small theater I was at, and those kids were crying, screaming, just in actual terror as what was happening. The family clearly had no idea what they were walking in to see.
Yeah.
And they did not expect anything that was happening. I felt really bad.
They had no idea they were going into this terrorist run society.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a very intense movie. It's very real. Yeah, but I recommend it for most people though. I would definitely say that you should give it a chance. That movie is The Breadwinner. It's actually available for streaming right now on Netflix. So all of you guys could go and watch it right now. It's a great movie. So Derek, what is your number 7?
My number 7 movie was Raw.
That's my number 7 too, Derek.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
You guys both have Raw higher than me. I'm like the Raw advocate.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I feel like I've been talking about Raw all year.
Yeah.
You should put it higher up on your list.
Yeah, true.
Well, cool. We can have a little discussion about it. Raw was, actually one of the earlier movies I think I saw this year. But I really liked it for how creative it was. Let's see, I consider it a horror movie, but it would appear that the filmmakers made no attempt at making it scary, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
To me, it really felt like more of a kind of charming coming-of-age story, but the material just happens to be about, a girl that develops a craving for human flesh. So it's that is horrifying, but it tends to have some sweet moments, and it was just really, really well made and well acted. Yeah, one of my favorite movies this year.
Derek, I like slightly disagree with you. I agree that it's like it was very much a coming of age story, and that's what made it. That was one of the things that made it so special to me, was that it like disguised itself as a horror film, where it was really like a girl figuring out who she really is. And then of course people start eating each other, and it's so disgusting. And like, this is a movie I don't want to recommend to a lot of people unless you like are into horror movies. If you're into horror movies, watch this. If you get grossed out easily, don't watch this.
It's very gruesome and grotesque for sure.
Surprisingly, this was one of the like few films. So last year when I saw La La Land, I remember you said this too, Shaun. Like you walked out of the theater with just like the biggest smile on your face. I kind of felt that with Raw. Like the journey I was taken on, and this like wild ride they put in front of me, and just like kind of right how that movie ends and the cut. I walked out of that movie theater just like the biggest grin on my face at kind of the talent that these people put into this film.
Wow. Yeah, that's a movie I didn't see.
I think it's worth to mention that it's a French film as well.
Definitely. So that movie is Raw. It's actually available for streaming right now on Netflix. So again, Shaun, you could watch that movie tonight when we're done recording this if you want to.
Yeah, I think I could watch all the movies so far that I haven't seen just streaming on Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've got Amazon Prime, Netflix, and Hulu. So, depending on your availability. Anyway, so my number 7 was also Raw. So, Shaun, what is your number 7?
My number 7 movie was Mudbound.
Oh.
Nice.
Ooh. Directed by Dee Rees. Want to give a big shout out to Rachel Morrison, who shot the movie, the director of photography. Coincidentally, she also did Black Panther. She just came out with Black Panther 2. But yeah, she is the first woman to be nominated for Best Cinematography at the Academy Awards.
Oh,
that's
and
amazing.
the movie
awesome.
is gorgeous. It's a beautifully shot film, like big, vast landscapes, and the movie is a really interesting take on that era of American history, about kind of racism in the South at a time before the civil rights movement, but well after kind of slavery. I feel like you don't get a ton of movies that are take place in that era about racism, but yeah, the movie kind of builds up to it slowly, and you really get invested in the characters, and I think the movie had just great performances all around. Mary J. Blige, who is also nominated for this movie. Just a really moving movie, very touching movie, and draws emotions out of very subtle moments, I think. It's just a beautiful movie.
Yeah, I agree. This is a really powerful film, and yeah, like I agree. I wanted to say that that time period was like during World War II, I think, and it's like I remember being like pre-taken with how characters came back from the war, and in the war everyone's brothers, and then they come back and all of a sudden they're like back in this like very racist area, and it was just like how shocking that must have been. And yeah, I don't remember ever seeing that on film before. I mean, I'm sure there's been films maybe, but yeah, it was very interesting. Great film.
Yeah, totally agree. And that climax too is just it's brutal, but like an incredible cinematic ending to that film.
Yeah. Okay, so that movie was Mudbound. It's available for streaming right now on Netflix. So, Brandon, what is your number 6?
My number 6 film is The Killing of a Sacred Deer. It was one of the most impressive movies I saw all year. Like, this movie is just style from beginning to end. Every shot and every moment, the way the characters move and talk and interact with each other is just unlike anything else. It's pretty hard to get on board with, and it's almost comical if you're looking at it one way. but the subject matter and the atmosphere that this director creates is so unique. The thrill of it, it's super suspenseful, and like I just couldn't take my eyes off the screen. It was doing so many creative, special things throughout it. I loved this film.
Yeah, I almost saw this movie as a horror film. The tone of the film and the way that it kind of slowly built and revealed what was actually going on in the movie really felt like a horror film to me, and was really creepy and off-putting. Yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting that, especially coming from The Lobster, which was, I thought, just an all-out comedy and a hilarious movie. But
yeah, there's people in the theater that were laughing. I was like kind of on the fence. I wasn't sure how I should be reacting, but I feel like this is a dark comedy, and it can go either way. I recommend not watching the trailer for this film. I went in completely dark, and I was so happy I did. Like, with what this boy reveals throughout the movie is just such a great twist if you don't know what's coming, if you don't see the advertisements for it.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't see the advertisements of this movie either, and it's definitely a really powerful film. I kind of feel like his movies are very, very intense. They're like kind of high concept, and like personally, I was much more taken by The Lobster. Like The Lobster hit me on every level. I put that in my top 10 last year or 2 years ago, pretty high, and this movie just didn't hit me like that. It kind of made me feel pretty numb and awkward afterward, but like I could see why other people would find it really powerful, because it was completely unique and a very interesting film.
yeah, I kind of agree completely. I had The Lobster on my top 10 last year, and just I think his style lends itself more to the comedy that was in The Lobster more so than, I mean, maybe I kind of weird and I saw this movie as just a straight horror. I didn't even really think it was funny. I just kind of saw it as a horror film.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was horrifying. But yeah, people were laughing in the theater as well for me. So, I mean, I saw comedy in it. The comedy didn't land for me as well. But again, like, dark comedy can go either way for people. Like, I'm sure some people didn't find The Lobster super hilarious. You know, I just kind of feel like his style is so unique. And I mean, I'm just glad he's making movies.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited to see what else he can do.
So that movie was The Killing of a Sacred Deer. It is available for rent on Amazon or Vudu, or you can find a Blu-ray and DVD. So, Derek, what is your number 6?
Number 6 was probably I know I keep saying the funnest time I've had in the theater. This is just the overall funnest movie I think I saw this year. It was so fast-paced. I, Tonya.
Nice.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah. It's so much fun. I don't know if there's like a name for this kind of movie where it's like the characters telling a story, you know? But it really that format really lent it to this story specifically really well, and it was just so much fun. It's such a fascinating piece of American pop culture, and it's something that I think people, like, having heard the story growing up, I've always been curious. Like, I've always kind of had my own rendition of it in my head, and so seeing these people like just act this crazy situation out was just so much fun. And again, Margot Robbie continues to be like this standout actress. I'm really excited for where things go. Oh, this is also the first movie from her studio I think she created too. So really excited to see where that goes. But yeah, amazing movie.
Yeah, so Derek, this was definitely my number 11. So I really wanted to go on there. I loved this movie. I just, I love it when biopics can tell a story in such a interesting way. It was so dramatic and yet so funny at the same time. And it's such a weird story too. Like,
Yeah.
I definitely really liked this movie. I'm glad you had it so high on your list.
And they just nailed the pace of this movie at every moment. And that kind of just made it why it's one of the funnest films to watch during the year.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
So that was I, Tonya. I think it's still in the movie theater right now, so it's not out on DVD yet, but you should be able to see it pretty quickly after the Oscars. So that goes to me. My number 6 is Lady Bird.
Punt.
Punt.
Okay, punting. So, Shaun, what is your number 6?
My number 6 is Dunkirk.
Punt.
Punting Dunkirk.
Picking up the pace.
Okay, so
Wow, so now top 5.
top 5, here we go. Okay, so Brandon, what is your number 5?
My number 5 is The Florida Project.
Punt.
I knew it.
Ooh.
I was just waiting for you to say it.
I mean, it was either going to be,
Damn.
yeah, I mean, I'm kind of surprised it's a punt a little bit, but yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So, Derek, what is your number 5?
My number 5 is Lady Bird.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Yay!
Sweet. There we go. So, yeah, it was. I saw Lady Bird. It was later on in the year, but again, I love coming of age stories. I don't know what it is about those movies that just always fascinate me. But this movie was the first film by Greta Gerwig, and it was just so honest and hilarious, and she had such a unique perspective to tell, and seeing that, I mean, this kind of story we've seen so many times, but I think she just kind of nailed everything. The pacing, all the actors were so good in it, and there's even like her mom in the movie. I haven't seen that lady in a movie or a TV show in like 20 years, I feel
Since like Roseanne.
And yeah, and she's so freaking good in this movie. And she had, just that dynamic between those two was is like a dynamic I've kind of heard of and kind of seen in people I know, and to see it played out on screen was just really fantastic, and kind of bold to be so honest about it. And yeah, and it just looked great, especially for a first film. It was just so confident in everything it did. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it's it's just such a lovely movie. It's a great script, had such great dynamic characters, and the relationship between Laurie Metcalf and Saoirse Ronan was so complex and interesting. And essentially it was a coming of age story, and you don't really see that kind of movie about just a mother and her daughter very often, and it's really heartwarming and kind of sad in moments, but yeah, great all around movie.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys. I had just one slot underneath you, and like I said, this was a great year for family dramas for me. Like, between this, The Big Sick, the Meyerowitz stories, which did not make my list. I thought all of those were really powerful family dramas, but this one just did everything right. It was just a year in her life, her senior year of high school, and there were so many things that happened in it, and everything mattered. But they kind of just, the pace of this movie so well, it just kind of all flew by. Just like, I feel like just how a year like that would fly by. Like, just, it was so honest and true, and the characters were so likable, and their relationships were so dynamic, and I feel like there's a lot to take out of this movie, and it was so fun and funny too, and so sad at parts. And I mean, that was like the whole thing of the movie, was that like the mom and the daughter would be screaming at each other, and then they could turn it off and be laughing like a second later, and then go back to screaming, and then drop in and walk away. Like their relationship was so strong and so interesting, and yeah, I love this film. It's a great film.
Yeah, I think Greta Gerwig this being her first film, the outstanding part is those character interactions. And like you're saying, Nick, how complex they are when they're riffing back and forth in their arguments and in their love with each other, all wrapped up in the same almost sentence. Greta Gerwig just directed these actors so perfectly, and it's really remarkable to see. With Derek, with you picking this movie so high, this is definitely like a thing of yours we're noticing more. I remember last year you had a bunch of these movies on your list.
Yeah. Edge of 17
I was just going to say,
number 3 on my list.
we could cut
Sing
this,
Street.
but you did put Edge of 17 in your top 3. Are you insinuating Edge of 17 is better than Lady Bird?
Well, or there's just better movies out this year.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to like directly compare a list from the year before, just because things change and years can be different and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that was partly a reason why I thought Derek would like Raw so much, was just because it's like a coming of age film for for cannibals. But so that movie was Lady Bird. It's still in some theaters, but it should be on DVD very soon. So my number 5 is Phantom Thread.
Hunt.
Okay, I knew that was gonna happen. Cool. So Shaun, was your number 5?
Oh, my number 5 is also Lady Bird.
Oh, that's right. We already went over that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Brandon, what is your number 4?
All right, my number 4 is The Square. The Square is nominated for Best Foreign Film, also foreign film for the Golden Globes and the Oscars. It's a Swedish comedy drama. It is a pretty funny film that's also like meticulously well crafted in every single shot and moment. It's like a feast for the eyes while you're laughing at these awkward, interesting situations. Just like the balance they're able to strike in that specific style almost made me want to put this film at number 1. That is just like one of the most difficult things to do, and just what so few movies even try to accomplish. The movie is a Swedish film that takes place in Stockholm. It's about a small modern art museum and one of the art curators for the museum. And it kind of like blends really smart comedy about kind of like a lot of the absurdity going on in modern art, and someone who's kind of right in the middle of all of that's happening. And so it's a very interesting perspective. It probably is just a slightly lower, just with overall storyline aspects that doesn't come to like as heavy of a punch as some other films that are a little bit higher. But this is one of the best foreign films of the year, one of the best movies of the year. It's incredible.
Cool. Yeah, I saw that movie too, Brandon. It didn't make my list, but I'm glad that you have it on there. I thought I'm with you. I thought the style was amazing. The style was like, and the humor really landed for me too. That movie was The Square. It's available now for streaming on Google Play and other platforms. It's also on DVD and Blu-ray. So, Derek, what is your number 4?
My number 4 movie was Dunkirk.
All right.
Again, Christopher Nolan continues to impress. I was actually, when he announced, or when it came up that he was making a World War II movie, I wasn't super excited, just because as much as I love him, like I love him for his big, ambitious, brainy ideas, and going for the World War II war drama, just doesn't really fit that mold very well. But leave it to him to create a somewhat brainy World War II epic. I consider it brainy just because it's even just in the editing and the way the story's told, it's very complex and yet very visually pleasing and thematically necessary. Well, maybe not necessary, but definitely the right choice for how he decided to do it. Having the 3 timelines kind of all intercede and climax at the same moment somehow, and it's just such an impressive film, and I think it's, for me, it's one of my favorite of his. Right, I put it in his top 3 best movies. I think he's still getting better, and of course, he's still creating movies that you have to see in theaters.
I had this at number 6. I would almost say that this is Christopher Nolan's most Christopher Nolan movie in how it.
Yeah, I agree.
How it does, like how it's everything from how it's edited together, like the nonlinear aspect of it, but to the cinematography and especially the score. It's like the score is so incredible in this movie. How it like builds and climaxes and then like slowly fades away. It's almost like a non-stop kind of ambient thematic score rather than kind of melodic or anything like that. But and also the cinematography, especially the aerial cinematography, was just so incredible. It's also nominated for cinematography Hoyt van Hoytma, who also did Interstellar with Christopher Nolan. They're kind of killing it right now, I think, together. It's just a brilliantly put together movie, and I think it really shows that Christopher Nolan, in his Christopher Nolan-ness, actually really has a great handle on what he's doing. I think a lot of people kind of poke fun at him for the things that he does, but yeah, it really shows that he knows what he's doing.
This film was number 10 on my list. And I totally agree with you, like on the score. I think that's one of the ways he tries to like tie together all 3 storylines as they're cutting in and out, is just keeping that, consistent, almost drone building throughout. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's talked about, but we also have to give credit for how unique of a choice it is to have like almost a dialogueless film all the way through. Like this movie is like nearly all visual, condensed down to an hour and 45-minute like digestible package for such an epic movie. It's like a really unique spin on a World War II film like this.
I recently, the Cinerama had all the Best Picture nominees playing, and so I went and saw it for that, and
that's
was
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is one of those movies that you really should see it in a theater on the biggest screen possible. And if you didn't, if you missed it in the theater, get it on Blu-ray and go to the biggest TV that you possibly can and, watch it there, as close to the TV as possible, because it's such an engrossing experience. The movie is like a ride. Those airplane scenes are so intense. It feels like you're flying. And, it's a crime if you watch this film like on an airplane or something. Like,
remember I was texting you guys those pictures from my last flight? There's like I saw 3 people in my peripherals casually watching Dunkirk, literally.
Oh God, I know a couple people told me that they saw it on the airplane, and I thought it was a joke.
Do you get anything out of that movie if you watch on the airplane? I mean, it still is like, I mean, it's still a good movie, but it's like, there's like no dialogue, there's no characters really. It's just about being in that moment, and so much of that is just being engrossed in it. So if you're like distracted, or if it's like on a small screen, it's like you're not gonna be engrossed and you're not gonna get the full experience. But yeah, I'm glad you guys had it so high on your list. I definitely is on my honorable mentions, but cool. So again, that was Dunkirk. If you go this weekend, you should be able to see it in some theaters, which we recommend. Otherwise, it's on Blu-ray or on the airplane, apparently. But don't do that. Okay, so my number 4 was The Florida Project.
Awesome.
Okay, so The Florida Project, I think we talked about it a few months ago when it came out, but for me, I've worked in social work for 5 or 6 years now, and I didn't enjoy this movie very much when watching it because it kind of felt like work. You know, the movie was so realistic. The kids are just kind of running around like the world is their playground. Their parents don't really take care of them. They're very behavioral. They do whatever they want. The mom doesn't know how to take care of her kid. She makes a lot of her mistakes herself. But the movie is so realistic and so honest. It's extremely powerful. Willem Dafoe delivers a really incredible, powerful performance, and the ending is, Brandon, I think we talked about it. Like, I had some serious issues with the last 10 seconds of the film, but leading up into those 10 seconds was one of the best endings all year. And so I've in my mind, I've kind of just pretended that those last 10 seconds didn't happen. It was a dream, and I just don't really pretend that happened. And the rest of it is just, man, that was a powerful film.
Yeah, this movie is remarkable and incredibly unique and rare slice of life that you don't get to see on screen very often. It provides, some despicable characters, some completely irresponsible characters, and that you're just watching and kind of horrified by, but it paints a picture of kind of understanding, and it gives you an understanding for why these people are who they are. And with that, you kind of come out learning a lot and becoming more compassionate. It's no excuse. Everything that ends up happening is extremely necessary, but it's also good to learn why things get that way.
Yeah, and I mean, also, to what you're saying, they're not even really explicit on why things are that way. I feel like the movie, the mom is desperate.
It's not heavy-handed.
Yeah, the mom is desperate. It's like she does a lot of things because she's desperate, but it doesn't ever tell you why she's desperate or what made her the way she is until there's a point in the movie where there's a mirror where the kid is being behavioral and the mom is being behavioral, and it, to me, it implies that it's cyclical. She wasn't raised properly, yeah. And so she doesn't know how to raise her kid properly.
She was the daughter 19 years ago.
Yeah, and again, it's a really powerful film, and it's I had a coworker who saw this movie months after I did, and he texted me, this movie was a lot funnier than I ever thought it would be. And that's kind of what triggered me to be like, okay, I need to get this social worker stick out of my butt and think about this. It probably was really funny, and I kind of want to go back and rewatch it. And again, I also think that anyone who's in social work or working with kids or wanting to be in that field, it should be a mandatory watch, because there's a lot to learn from this film. Okay, so that movie was The Florida Project. It's available on Blu-ray and DVD and can be found streaming on Amazon or Google Play. So, Shaun, what was your number 4?
My number 4 was my funnest theater experience this year. I just had an absolute blast in every second of this movie. And that's Edgar Wright's Baby Driver.
Punt.
Oh yes!
Whoa. No.
I was a little worried that no one else would have it.
So unexpected. Yes.
Okay, so now we are into our top 3. So, Brandon, kick us off. What was your number 3?
Oh, man. Hold on, I'm just recovering from that. I'm just being so excited that someone was going to bring it up, and then finding out that it's even higher on 2 other people's lists. Oh.
Yeah, of course.
That's great. Okay, so I'm on 3.
Yep.
All right, so my number 3 film is Call Me By Your Name.
Sorry, Brandon.
Oh, wow. Okay, it's not anywhere on anyone's list. Wow. And you made me very much aware of this movie, Nick. Yes.
I think I'm the only other person that saw this movie out of the 4 of us.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
And it's...
Oh, damn.
It's definitely, on my, honorable mentions. It's just, it was a tight year. I just couldn't get on there.
Tight year. This movie is nearly flawless. So, like Derek, you mentioned actually sold out movies before. I forget what film was that?
For it.
Yeah, for it. Call Me by Your Name. Like, and it was actually exciting how many times I got turned down at the movie theater to go see this. I probably went to the cinema like 3 times before I finally got in. Especially with Movie Pass, you have to buy it the day of, so you can't really pre-order it. Anyways, it was cool seeing just like how crazy people in New York went and lining up to see this movie. It was sold out just for weeks once it was released in just a few theaters throughout the city. Call Me by Your Name is nearly a perfect film for me. It is just like completely timeless. I can imagine watching this movie in like 40 years from now and it just feeling like still completely fresh and new, like it could have been made yesterday. I loved everything about it. I loved how undramatic this film was. It's not heavy-handed at any moment, and it just tells one small connection over the course of several weeks that these characters have, and a little bit of a heartbreak. There's no like bawling, there's no shouting or screaming or fighting. It's a very simple and quiet movie, and it's all the more powerful because of that and more relatable. I think it tells like a more human story than a lot of other, romances in this drama genre attempt to do. And it's just beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was that. It's a beautiful, beautiful film. Yeah, I mean, it really just flowed really well. And Brendan, I had a similar experience too because it almost sold out for me. And I mean, it didn't come to Seattle for weeks and weeks. And I went to the theater very early, and I still had to sit in the very front row. And
right, this tiny little film, like how the fuck is it selling?
Yeah,
out?
well, I think
kind of exciting.
For me, it was like built up for a long time because I think it first premiered at Sundance or some festival, and it consistently got like 5 stars. Like everyone saw this movie and just said, "Oh yeah, that was one of the best movies of the year, hands down, easily." And it's one of those it's just such a unique, beautiful love story. And I find myself defending it sometimes because it is the love story between an adult and a teenager, but I think it was told in such an artistic and lovely and frankly, like kind of, I don't want to say innocent, but like meaningful way where like, yeah, there was an age gap, but lessons were learned and no one was exploited. It was, the feelings were very real and worthwhile all the way through. And because of that, it was just a beautiful, beautiful film.
That's extremely well put, for sure.
Yeah, you guys should really see it when you get a chance.
Yeah, definitely one of the few movies that I'm that is on the for sure going to see list.
Yeah, probably the movie I've heard most recommended just in general on various podcasts and critics and stuff.
So that movie was Call Me by Your Name. It's not actually available anywhere right now unless you find a random theater that's playing it. But it should be available on Blu-ray and DVD and streaming very soon. So Derek, what was your number 3?
My number 3 was Baby Driver.
Punt.
Ooh.
All right.
Wow.
Nick.
So my number 3 was Blade Runner 2049.
Punt.
Okay. Cool.
Damn.
Wow.
Derek, no punt?
I still haven't seen it. This is probably the movie I'm most excited to watch.
What?
Yeah.
Didn't you rewatch Blade Runner like 10 months ago?
Yes. I didn't make it to
get
the
prepared
theater to
for
see
it.
the movie.
Derek,
Yeah.
Derek, I have Blade Runner on Blu-ray. We should go over to Andrew's house and watch it.
That would be a lot of
The only
fun.
reason
I'd love to
the
do
only
that.
reason I say Andrew's house because he has the biggest TV of anyone I know. So.
I'd join you for sure.
Oh, okay.
Damn. We know Nick's top 2 now. Oh.
Oh shit.
Yeah, but which order?
Wait, no, you don't. Oh yeah, I guess you do. Okay.
Which one's
Wow,
number
I
one?
forgot about that punt.
Shit.
Okay, so wait.
So
Sean's turn.
Number 3.
Sean, you're number
So
3.
my number 3 is Get Out.
All right. Cool.
I thought someone... Oh, no. I punted it for someone.
yeah,
Who else had that?
That was my number 9, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, my number 9.
Yeah, Get Out was the movie that lasted the entire year. Everyone is still talking about it. It came out in February last year, and it was just constantly talked about throughout the entire year. It's a fascinating movie. It makes you feel so many things all at the same time. It makes you feel extremely uncomfortable while being slightly funny, while being kind of terrifying in moments, and while having a lot to say, having a lot to learn from the movie. Jordan Peele's directorial debut, and it was a hell of a debut. And he also wrote it. He wrote and directed it. It had a really great cast. Yeah, it was just a fascinating movie to watch while being really entertaining and a great genre movie too. It really showed that Jordan Peele has a great understanding of the horror genre. I really, really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, Sean, I'm glad you had it so high. That's really cool. I think this is hands down the most culturally relevant movie of the year. Like, the way people have talked about it, the way it's stuck around, how much money it made, like, there's a reason why it resonated so much with people, because it had a lot to say, it was easy to watch, it evoked a lot of emotions, and it also had a very important subject matter. And, I like to bring, I rewatched it, because, I bought it on Blu-ray, and I just I rewatched it recently, and I liked it more the second time because I was able to pick up on a bunch of small little subtle details that were in there. The subtle details definitely came out more. There were these scenes that I didn't really realize how creepy they were until I saw it a second time, or there were a few moments of foreshadowing that happened early in the movie that just put shivers down my spine. Also, the flaws that I had in the movie, I kind of brushed off a lot easier. It very much was a genre movie. It very much was a horror movie. So a lot of my flaws, I could easily just be yeah, but that was kind of a trope of horror movies. It's okay that happened because this is it's totally just trying to be a horror comedy. Mostly horror, but it's very much what it is. And I also just want to bring up the visuals in the movie. There were some scenes that I think will go down in history as memorable, important horror film scenes, such as the sunken place is huge. That was so scary and such a unique idea. And it's a unique idea, but it's also an idea that's oh wow, how come no one has done this before? This is amazing. Yeah, Get Out's a very powerful, interesting film.
This movie's definitely on my honorable mentions list. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's easily the most culturally relevant movie this year, and it has stuck around so much. It's crazy. And now, all the conversations are being reignited again. And Jordan Peele got the Best Picture, Best Director, and did he get Best Screenplay? Original Screenplay?
Yeah, he was nominated for Best Original Screenplay.
I mean, that's huge for your first... The last time I think I want to say that The Sixth Sense did that too with M. Night Shyamalan's first big movie. He got the picture, screenplay, and director nominations. It's just it's really fascinating and really, really exciting to see that.
It's the trifecta.
Especially from someone that everybody adores already, and he tries this new thing and completely just nails it. Yeah, it's really cool.
So. Yeah, that movie was Get Out. You can stream it on HBO if you have HBO, or you can get it on Blu-ray or DVD. So, top 2. Brandon, what is your number 2?
Number 2 is Phantom Thread, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson.
Wow.
This is a remarkable film, as we know. It's starring Daniel Day-Lewis in his infamous last film before his retirement. Everything about this film is firing on all cylinders. It's beautifully shot. Some of the best acting of the year. It's very complex. Like, people's like emotions are just like boiling out from under their skin as this movie develops. This is also like a dark comedy. This does lean more comedy than some of the last ones we've mentioned, like Sacred Deer, but like this is a funny movie. Yeah, I even took like one of my friends, Rick, who doesn't see that many movies, and like I was kind of worried about taking him to this like Paul Thomas Anderson kind of like really highbrow film, and he like loved it. Like it was a blast to watch, even on those different levels. And the climax of this film just gets batshit crazy, and it just tops off like the most beautiful film with just like the most interesting, crazy ending that I just loved that it went there and that it pulled it off and did that. And to me, like, if it wasn't for those last like 20 minutes and where this movie goes, I couldn't put it this high just on cinematography and acting alone, but the script is just so daring and bold to go in that direction. So it's the number 2 film of the year for me.
Yeah, I'm with you, Brandon. I had it pretty high on my list. I had it at number 5, and it was either going to be 4 or 5. I couldn't decide which spot, and I have a hard time like talking about this movie a little bit because I don't want to overhype it, because it is like just a movie about like a relationship and making dresses. It's, everything about it is perfect, though. Like, the cinematography, the acting is so top-notch. The soundtrack is, like, so beautiful. But, like...
Oh, man. Yeah, Johnny Greenwood's soundtrack is incredible.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I just... so I don't want to hype it up too much because it's so simple, and yet it gets so complicated kind of suddenly. And the ending does go on this, like, intense... like twisted direction, and I guess it's kind of more twisted in the context of the story, because if you were like to compare it to Raw or something, it wouldn't be like as twisted, but like it is like so intense while it's happening. Like, I don't know, no one makes movies like Paul Thomas Anderson, and like I'm kind of in the boat of like almost all of his movies are like 5-star movies, and this movie doesn't disappoint. It just, like, it's not There Will Be Blood, where it's, like, showy and powerful and screaming and fire and, oil flying out of the ground. It's making dresses, eating breakfast, being in a relationship, and, then eating some mushrooms. Like, that's the movie. So, but it's amazing, though. It's amazing and perfect almost in every way.
I had the movie at number 8. The thing that really stood out for me is the ending was my jaw was dropped for about the 10 minutes of that ending. And like the dynamics of the movie between the characters, there's so much happening in such quiet scenes. And a shout out to his Paul Thomas Anderson shot the movie too, which I can't imagine how much work just goes into being on set, directing and lighting and setting a frame, doing all that. I can't imagine how difficult that would be.
Definitely. Well, yeah, that was Phantom Thread. It is still in the theaters right now. So check it out. So that was Brandon's number 2. Derek, what was your number 2?
So my number 2 has actually moved all over my list to being not on it, back on it, moved all over. Just because it's pretty polarizing, I think, when you watch this. So, three billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. It's my number 2 movie this
Hunt.
year.
Whoa. Okay.
Take the wind out of your sail.
There we go. There we go. All right.
Wow.
I knew Shaun would have
Party.
that there.
All right.
Okay, so my number 2 was Mother!
Yeah.
Whoa. Whoa.
Yeah.
Nice, Nick.
Yeah, so, yeah, I put Mother pretty high, but, I mean, honestly, Mother was one of the craziest film experiences I've had all year. I love that so many people hated it, but, like, most people that I liked it. So, I don't know, like, I left the theater, like, shaking. The first time I saw it, I was, like, shaking. I had no idea what I just watched. And, like, I turned to Shannon, and she said, well, that was obviously about religion. And I said, I thought it was about, Darren Aronofsky's marriage falling apart. We had just vastly different takes on the movie. And then I went home and read about it, and other people had totally different opinions. Like, it was one of those movies where everyone had, like, their own take on what happened in it. And everything about the movie is, like, surprising. And, like, it's so unique and unsettling. I left the theater, like I said, like shaking, like I was trembling. I just didn't trust anyone in the world. Drove home, there was traffic. I was like worried that just like all the cars were just going to blow up or something. Like I just was like just terrified that something was going to happen on the drive home. And it was a Friday night. Got to the theater at like 7. I didn't want to talk to anyone that night. I didn't want to do anything. I went to bed early. It was such a physical experience. So then I saw the movie like 2 weeks later, again in the theater because I was so interested in it. Me and Shannon, we both went back to the theater to see it. This is before Movie Pass, so like I paid for it both times, and it was much funnier the second time. Like, I had such a different reaction where I was laughing the whole time. And I was, like, looking around the theater, like, seeing what other people's reactions were. And it's, like, it's just such an interesting movie. And the performances are, like, really stark and engaging. And, the first half is totally different than the second half. But the second half, like, takes you for a ride. And, yeah, I just think it's like one of the most brilliant, unique pieces of films that have come out in a long time. So, yeah, I got real high on my list. Real high. Number 2. This
film was one of my honorable mentions for sure. One thing I wanted to kind of point out is, everyone talks about like the unique cinematography with, the 3 angles he chose over the shoulder, POV, extreme close up of her face.
Yeah.
But like, I think it doesn't get enough credit for, no matter what you think about the last 30 minutes of the film, like Darren Aronofsky is a complete genius for the way he was able to construct and build that just onslaught of insanity together. No, like so few people can execute that with that level of perfection, and just staging that and stringing all those events into that swirl of a mess was remarkable. And yeah, I think that doesn't get said enough.
Yeah.
For the last part of the movie. That's the most controversial part.
Yeah, it's like the ending of the movie, it just like, I feel like every 5 minutes you're like, this cannot get any worse. And then like there's still another 20 minutes left in the movie, and each 5 minutes is just worse than the last one. And it just, yeah, it gets crazy. I had it at number 10, and it's definitely the movie of the year that just tickled my id so good. And it like there's something about it on a emotional subconscious level that that just leaves you in a almost paralyzed state at the end of the movie. I had a very similar experience to Nick when I walked out of the movie. Just like what is everybody doing? It paralyzes you. And yeah, it just I love hearing all the different takes that people have on the movie. Yeah, it was a masterfully put together film.
Real quick, this is kind of off topic, but someone on Spotify made a playlist that's called David Byrne Presents Mother, and if you just like go through the track list and like read it, it's like the entire plot of Mother.
Are these real David Byrne songs?
Yeah, they're all real David Byrne Talking Heads songs.
Oh shit! Huh. Yes, please.
Okay, so here we go. Okay, a long time ago, home. Who is it? You don't know me. The lady don't mind. You'll be taken care of. Somebody. The great intoxication. Psycho killer. Strange overtones. Everybody's coming to my house. Please don't. Broken things. Why don't you love me? The moment of conception. Dinner for two. This must be the place. Everybody's in love with you. The Overlord. Life during wartime. Help me somebody. Come with us. In the upper room. No compassion. You be Jesus. Now I'm your mom. God's child. His wife refused. She only sleeps. Daddy go down. Something ain't right. The accident. Poor boy. Strange ritual. She's mad. Burning the house down. Tiny apocalypse. The one who broke your heart. And she was... Why?
Holy shit. Is that the IMDb synopsis? Or...
So, it's pretty amazing.
Wow. Damn.
So that's Mother. It's available streaming online for rent, or you can get it on Blu-ray and DVD. Shaun, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is Blade Runner 2049.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah, directed by Denis Villeneuve. Big shout out to Roger Deakins, the director of photography. This was such a beautiful movie. I feel like he was just able to really go and do like whatever he wanted for this movie, and it really paid off visually. I feel like everything was firing on all cylinders. Everyone had such a coherent idea of what this movie was supposed to be, from the score to the cinematography to even the acting. Ryan Gosling and Robin Wright, and the set designs were so interesting, and I feel like every scene of this movie and every moment of the film was something. There was something that I had never seen or experienced before in a movie. I think this is a movie that deserved a lot better, and it's sad that it's not going to kind of launch a new era of filmmaking as far as these big budget sci-fi movies. But
right, I mean, it's interesting to think about, like, has sci-fi films this heady and this kind of sophisticated ever really done that well?
No, it's not necessarily unexpected, but it is sad because I mean
I'm not surprised it didn't do that great, just because I loved it. It was my number 3 movie. I'm totally with you, but it did, the first one wasn't a commercial success. And that being said, I'm super glad it was made because it's so gorgeous, and so perfect. Every shot is a masterpiece. The story is engaging, and there's different layers to it, and it takes you on twists and turns, and it's a great film. And I think it's going to go down just like the original Blade Runner as not commercial success, but a critical success, and people will be talking about for years. At least I hope they will.
And I think we're in the midst of seeing one of the greatest directors of all time come into fruition. So, guys, around the table, real quick, what did everyone put this film as this year for Blade Runner 2049? It's honorable mention for me.
It's my number 3.
Number 2 for me.
I didn't see it. Yeah, I didn't see it.
Oh, Derek didn't see it. Okay, so exactly a year ago in October, Denis Villeneuve came out with Arrival, which is in my top 10.
It was my number 1.
Yeah, it was my number 1 as well.
Yeah, it was like my number 3, I think.
Okay, exactly 1 year before that, in October 2015, Denis Villeneuve came out with Sicario, which was in my top 3.
Yeah, it was my number 3, I think.
I think it was in my honorable mentions.
It was number 7 for me.
That is incredible. Mm-hmm. Like, no other director has even come close to doing this.
That's just the last 3 years.
Even before that, his other movies were good too. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, he took 1 year gap and then came out with Prisoner.
Yeah.
Like,
Prisoner.
yeah, it's freaking me out. Like, this is so fun to watch.
well, his next movie's Dune, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
Fuck. My God.
Well, that was Blade Runner 2049. It's available on streaming and DVD and Blu-ray. Okay, we're going to do our number 1s now. So, Brandon, do you want to start us off? What was your number 1 film of the year?
Okay, so my number 1 film is Loveless.
Wow.
This is a Russian drama film. It was nominated for Best Foreign Film at the Oscars this year. And it was also directed by this guy, Andre Z. It's hard to pronounce his last name, but he directed Leviathan back in 2014, which is one of my favorite films of all time. And this is his follow-up that he did since then. So this is like a heavy Russian tragedy film. It does not get much more just bleak than this drama. It's a rough, depressing film to watch as you move through the story, but it is so perfectly executed, and it was just like somehow a joy to see this guy craft this dark relationship and the mystery with their son. From the opening shot of the movie, it's not flashy like some of this other cinematography we've been mentioning with Blade Runner and Paul Thomas Anderson, but like from the opening shot, you just like know you're in incredible hands, and things like scenes and shots are not how they should normally feel, and there's just always this unique take on whatever scene is unfolding in front of you with the angle that they give you. And it's hard to talk about this film because I wouldn't recommend this to anybody because it is so dark, but it is an incredibly well-made, perfect film.
So it's your number 1 film, but you wouldn't recommend it to anyone because
I would not recommend it to my worst enemy.
Wow.
Okay, so
No, that's rough. That's rough.
Okay, so this movie has been on my watch list for months. Like, I've heard rumblings about this movie like so long ago, and it hasn't come out here yet. Like, it's not in Seattle yet. I actually like illegally downloaded it, but couldn't find subtitles, so I still couldn't watch it. I've heard that it's like by far like the worst date movie of all time. And the only other movie I could think of that's gone like that kind of reaction is like Blue Valentine, which I hear is like also like, it's about relationships, and it's like, but you recommend me to watch Loveless, though, right?
Yeah. You know what I'm using a figure of speech. Like, I wouldn't recommend this to people who are just like, I want to go watch a movie. But like this, if you want to see a remarkable film that will like ruin your night and weekends, like watch Loveless.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Cool. So, so Derek, what was your number 1 film of the year?
I think you guys probably know where this is going. Don't judge me. I don't think this is the best movie of the year, but it is hands down, with no comparison, my favorite movie of the year, because the experience I had while watching it is something I will never have again in my entire life.
Would you say it was the funnest time you had in theater this year?
it was the most excited I've probably ever been in a theater since like maybe Jurassic Park. Like, I know that's pretty big words, but for me, like this movie confirmed something that like internet like fans and movie buffs have been like wanting for over 10 years, which was a sequel to a movie we never thought we'd get. And so my number one movie this year was Split.
Wow.
I think
I knew that was coming. You called it like 9 or 10 months ago.
I mean, it's still so fresh and exciting in my head. Like, just being how important M. Night Shyamalan has been to my relationship with film, and like his career has almost been like its own story. Like. With his like sudden burst of success and then him, kind of rising to becoming such a name that everybody knows M. Night Shyamalan. Everyone knows what he's known for, and everyone knows the kind of movies he makes. And for a while, he was generally really well respected, and then his career took a massive downfall, and for years he was just getting critically panned. And only recently he started to kind of work his way back in, and he's starting to make excellent films again.
Reinvent himself.
Yeah, for sure. And so seeing Split, which I think is kind of like the second movie in his comeback tour, was really exciting. And it was just another well-crafted thriller. I don't know, by itself, I don't think it stands as his best movie. But the twist that nobody could ever pull off, like, I'm still kind of in disbelief when I think about how somehow this never leaked. And I didn't even see it opening night, and somehow it still never got spoiled for me. But just getting to experience like that connection in such a creative way too, like not using it as a selling point for the film at all. In fact, it's like an afterthought. And I don't know, it's just so exciting to me, and it's so creative and so surprising. And yeah, I mean, it's the kind of twist I don't think anyone could ever do again. It's once you've done it, I don't think it can ever be done again. So that was my number one movie this year.
A once in cinema twist.
Yeah,
exactly.
it was really one of those like power of cinema, like power of the medium type things, where they did something that like transcended something anyone had ever done before. You didn't even know what you were watching.
Yeah.
Cool. So that was Split. The movie's available on streaming and DVD and Blu-ray. So my number one was Baby Driver.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
So, I mean, I just thought Baby Driver, I mean, it was just exciting. You know, like everything about it, the build up to it, knowing that Edgar Wright was doing a complete passion project, you know, that was just about cars. I mean, you didn't really know too much about it going into it, but it was like, you know, it turned out to be this fairy tale of love and violence and driving and heists, and you know, it mixed genres. It had incredible editing, and the soundtrack was amazing, and like just everything about it was just like on point and fun and exciting. And you know, I think it's incredibly rewatchable. I think the opening scenes is one of the best opening scenes of all time. You know, it's just an incredible fun film. You know, it's just a ride that needs to be seen.
I tried to anticipate what you were going to put as your number one, like earlier today, and this movie was so far from my guess, but it's really cool to hear you put it this high.
Yeah, I had it at 4. Derek, did you have it higher than 4?
It was my number 3.
Okay. Yeah, it's such a fun movie, and it's so exciting to see Edgar Wright do this kind of movie, and it's a really unique movie. I can't think of anything else that's put together like this movie is. And it's simple, but the kind of complexity of the movie comes in the style and the pacing. And yeah, it's a blast all the way through.
You know, it's also calculated, but it's like whimsical. It's a fairy tale instead of it being like a film noir. You know, it's got this love story that's simple, but it works. Like, you care about the characters. You know, our main character doesn't talk a lot, but he listens to music, and you learn so much about him just because of how much he loves what he loves. He loves music, and he makes his own music, and like those things really stand out and kind of bring the film to another level. Just, I don't know, it's one of those things where, like, yeah, it's simple, but everything about it is like perfect and fun, and it's just a great time at the movies, like in pretty much every way.
I think Edgar Wright is like, he's like that kid in school that gets perfect grades on like every little assignment. And like coming up to the release of this movie, like there was never ever a doubt in my mind that this wouldn't be in my top 3, even before I saw it. It was like, just based off of Edgar Wright's record, he makes perfect films, but his craftsmanship and like the amount of care and attention to detail that he has in his movies are just, there's very few people that I can even compare it to him. Like, and this movie is just another example of like, he's just doing things that nobody does. Like, while you know, doing one of the most popular genres that there is, you know, heist movies. It's like, it's very, I don't know, it's just so, it's kind of like, the movie I compare it most to when I'm like trying to sell it to people is strangely Mad Max Fury Road, which, like, to me, it feels like just everything. It's not the most complex movie, but everything they do is so perfect and so creative, and just such a creative perspective with the editing and the music. I've never seen, I mean, it's really easy for me to say I've never seen a movie edited the way this movie's edited, and the way that the music carries the film without without making it like a musical movie. Really, it's not like, I don't know, that's not like the point of the movie, but he was able to use that as like the driving force for the entire film. And it's really creative and really interesting, and he continues to just blow me away every time he makes a new movie.
Great. So that was Baby Driver. You can get that on Blu-ray and DVD or stream it online. So last one, Shaun, you're number 1.
My number 1 movie is 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Oh, wow.
No one gonna punt? Is
Nice.
no one gonna punt? Yeah. Who had it on?
That was my number 2.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And my number 9.
I have it on my honorable mentions.
Yeah, it's there's so much that I could say about the movie. It's dealing with so many different elements of humanity. The script in this movie is complex, and there's so much going on in any given scene. The way it deals with its themes, it'll present a theme in a really unique and interesting way, and then immediately subvert that theme, and then immediately reinforce the theme, all in a matter of a few minutes or a single scene. And it'll contradict every notion you have about how a story is meant to be told, or the way a movie is supposed to be structured. And I feel like this movie really plays with kind of the crime drama type genre, but like, it really doesn't fit in that mold at all. The movie ends in a place that you did not see coming. It ends in a place that is completely different from where you would expect it to go, but it has the ending be perfect for the movie and for the characters. And yeah, I love the movie. I could talk about the movie for another hour, but Yeah, incredible performances, brilliantly directed, a great score too. Yeah, it's such a good movie.
Yeah, if I had to, like, one word for me to describe the movie, is just like, it's so angry, and there's like anger's expressed in so many different ways in this film, so many different characters and how they deal with, the kind of the havoc that she's creating in the town, whether it's justified or not. I like what you said, like how the movie kind of ends in a place that you'd never really expect it to go, yet it's perfect. And it's also, like, for me, it was a place I didn't want it to go, and yet I still thought it was perfect.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know. I just didn't really know what to expect. But this guy has such a unique voice, I think, and like, it just felt like there's just so much anger and, like, all these, Frances McDormand, just being this, like, unmovable. Nothing was going to change how she felt. And at least for me, I kind of, like, you kind of think that she's the character that's going to grow. But then as you see, like, Sam Rockwell's character unfold, I kind of saw him as his stereotype was someone that's not going to change, And there's parts where I'm, like, crying because of the stuff he's going through, and how heroic he ends up being in certain moments, And it doesn't ever forgive him for the way he is, but it's just such a interesting way to experience these characters, and some of the violence is pretty shocking too. Yeah. Yeah, I'm really excited. Like, it really made me want to go back and watch this guy's other films, because this was so just confidently brilliant filmmaking the whole way through.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have criticized this movie for what they say is unearned redemption of, particularly, I assume, for Sam Rockwell's character. And for me, watching the movie, I don't think any character was redeemed. I don't think any character was kind of held up as the good guy, and I don't think any character was put down as the villain or the bad guy. And I think that's what's so great. One of the things that's so great about the movie, it's like it's asking you to look at life and people more complexly than good and evil, or good guy, bad guy, or how we normally see movies like this.
Yeah, exactly.
This feels like a great, like, stage play in the twists that it throws at you along with the story. And I loved that.
Yeah. I liked what you said about it not redeeming anybody. I think this movie got kind of mixed for some people because of how much time is spent in, like, the gray area of who people are. There weren't clear-cut emotions or clear-cut characters of how you were supposed to feel about people. Everything was kind of in the gray, and it was like the good people were kind of bad and the bad people were kind of good, and everyone did kind of bad things all the time. And I thought it was great for that reason. But I think sometimes people have a hard time really embracing, the subtleties of that kind of gray zone.
Yeah. And a big shout out to Frances McDormand and Sam Rockwell, especially. Like, such incredible performances by both of them, and Woody Harrelson. Mm-hmm. But yeah, some great acting in this movie.
Yeah, the whole cast was really great.
Yeah, who's amazing?
Lots of people.
Oh no, the redhead guy, Celeb Laundry Jones.
Oh, he was in Lady Bird also.
Yeah,
he's in so many movies.
Yeah, and Twin Peaks this year too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this guy is off the hook.
I can't believe Twin Peaks wasn't in your guys' top 10 list this year.
That wasn't a movie.
Or the Civil
sure?
War 17-hour documentary. I did want to say, Derek, you said you were like excited to see Martin McDonagh's other films, but also like he has a play right now that I just found out a couple weeks ago that's off Broadway called Hangman that he wrote. And I was like, I freaked out when I saw it, and I went to buy tickets. It's totally sold out for its like 2-month run that it's doing.
Oh, damn.
But I think that means like maybe it'll get picked up and be pushed on Broadway. But yeah, it's totally sold out. I could be watching a Martin McDonagh play right now.
Wow.
I'm really pissed I can't.
That's cool.
Okay, well, we're going long, so I think we should wrap it up. Okay, cool. So that last movie, though, was 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. It's still in theaters right now. It'll become available on DVD and streaming after the Academy Awards. So we already kind of went through our honorable mentions. We've run down a bunch of movies tonight. Our next episode's going to come out mid-March. We're going to talk about the first few movies of 2018. I'm guessing we'll be talking about Black Panther, maybe Annihilation, whatever else has come out that's been a big deal. But in the meantime, where can we find you guys online? Brandon?
You can find me on Letterboxd at Beb, that's B-E-B, and then also on Instagram by my name, Brandon_Bowlby.
Okay, what about you, Derek?
I'm not online a whole lot anymore, but you can find me on Letterboxd at Chicken Tech. And if you are really interested, I've been streaming a lot video games at Mixer.com. You can find me at Chicken Tech.
Nice. Okay, what about you, Shaun?
If you want, you can follow me on Letterboxd at Bulbinator.
Cool. Yeah, I'm on Letterboxd as well at Mothman23. I've been trying to write a lot more reviews this year, so if you read something I wrote, let me know if you disagree or not. So, yeah, that's wrapping up our episode. This has been the Monthly Movie Dispatch, and we will talk to you later. Have a nice time.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.